Right, and we are live. Good evening, hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is a Thursday night, which means you know what it means. It is the fan forum, a little bit of a smaller fan forum. The fans they've left us, so you're gonna be stuck with myself and Chris for the next hours. We're gonna chat about a lot. Actually, a lot has happened in the last 7 days since we had the fan forum. A lot of drama, a lot of controversy, a lot of team announcements as we sort of build up to the World Cup, which gets underway 3 weeks tomorrow. But before we get to that, Chris, are you well?
Yes, Davey, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, good to be back. I think it's been a few weeks since I've been on the show. So, yeah, it's good to be back. And obviously, we'll talk some betting. So, hopefully, we can continue the good streak that we've been on.
Yeah, so in case you are new to the fan forum, this show is brought to you by Boyle Sports, who are our official betting partner for the channel, and they've got a lot of cool sign-up deals for you. So if you do not have a Boyle Sports account, they have recently launched in South Africa. They're also overseas in the UK and the likes, and so you can go and check them out wherever you are. But if you are in South Africa, you can get a sign-up bonus of up to R1,000 as when you make your first deposit when you sign up for Boyle Sports. Link in the description. We're going to put a link in the chat as well. Please do go show them their support. And we're going to talk about, well, Chris will be giving a couple of bets later in the show. We'll be looking at our season record, which is looking pretty good. And hopefully we'll be picking up going into the World Cup as well, because I think a lot of rugby is about to start happening. But the World Cup I think is going to be quite an interesting one to bet on itself. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, if you are new to the show, go and get that sorted and get yourself a Boyle Sports account. Right. This weekend, we've got Summer Nations action. The Boks are back in action. They're taking on Wales, a bit of an experimental Welsh side. We've got Ireland versus England. We've got France versus Fiji. I think Georgia are playing the USA. And then we've also got to talk about Owen Farrell. We're going to talk about Owen Farrell and what he's been up to. We're going to talk a little bit about Eddie Jones and the very amusing press conference that he gave today. If anybody missed it, go and check it out. It is on the channel in his full on his cowboy hat and having a go at the media as he always does. Lots of entertainment is Eddie Jones. So we've got a lot to talk about in the next hour as we sort of bring you all the various news from around the world. But Chris, let's start with the Bok lineup, shall we? I think that's probably a good. In fact, no, you know what? I actually want to talk about what's really going on. Let's talk about Owen Farrell. Let's start with the topical one. Let's start with the breaking news. So in case anybody has been living under a rock and you have missed it, Owen Farrell got yellow carded last week Saturday. It was then upgraded to a red via the new TMO bunker, which I think is a really cool little piece of innovation, actually. And on Tuesday, he then had a hearing. An independent judicial committee found him not guilty of it being a red card and rescinded the red card. But however, today, World Rugby had come out and said that they will be using their right to appeal the decision, and they're going to be instituting their own hearing and having a talk or having a look at exactly what they think on the incident itself. And obviously, World Rugby being the governing body, they'll have the kind of final say. Chris, before you sort of go about the nightmare of a week. I mean, Shane, as much as a lot of people won't feel too much sympathy, it's probably been quite a hectic week for Owen Farrell when you think he's waking up, think he's going to get banned, and he's not banned, and he might get banned, and now his World Cup might be in jeopardy, might not be in jeopardy. But over the weekend, when you saw the tackle, when you saw the incident, what was your first instinct?
First instinct, it was head contact, shoulder head contact, bad tackling body position. Exactly how I expected the rules of rugby going at the moment, how you've laid it out, how our processes are with the referees and the officials. I had absolutely no issue with anything that happened. I actually quite liked it. We've gone through the process, the process on the field where they go through the steps for mitigation. They've now gone a further step, brought in the bunker, and it all looked like no issues, Yeah. He's done it again. He's a serial culprit of this. 5% of his tackles don't involve arms. So what more do you want? It's at least a 2-match ban for me. I say it could have gone down to 1. I probably could have lived with 1, but it should have at least been a 2 or 3, in my opinion. I don't know. Yeah, it was absolutely. I haven't been quite shocked in a long time to see that headline when they came out and said it had been rescinded. We've gone so far where these rules have impacted our game. It slowed it down. We've seen a different type of game. We're protecting the players. We've got harder refs. we've bought into this that we're protecting our players, and now we've just gone back 5 years. Like what is the point? So for me, it's not even Owen Farrell, who I just do not like as a rugby player. Sorry to say, I think he's completely overrated, and he can stay in the England team as far as I'm concerned because he does nothing for them. But in terms of rugby and our game and integrity and credibility, this is a shocking return of events. And World Rugby had even if it doesn't even get the appeal gets withheld or whatever, they have to do this because of the outcry that's come out. But it just does not sit well. And we can use Moala as example because I mean look what he's got and look what other players have got. I don't want to go into the conspiracy thing, the bias in. We discussed the tweet from Alkia earlier about this stuff, but I haven't enjoyed this week at all. I don't think it's good for our game at all. I know we want our players there, but there's no sense in this. So I'm at a loss, Steve. I don't know how you feel. I'm at a total, and I'm disgruntled.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, I mean, for me, as you said, we're trying to make the game safer. That's kind of the whole point, and you do get some people who are very quick to say, oh, the game's gone soft and stuff like that, which it's a pretty terrible way, I think, for me of looking at the game. But I think, we've gone with the hard line and saying, we've got to cut this out. If we want this game to grow, we want this game to continue, we've got to cut these out. And, he's talking about the bias stuff like that. I mean, yes, I think I agree with you. I'm not going to go into the conspiracies about sort of tier 1 nations to tier 2 nations, stuff like that, and the different treatment. Everybody's saying if it's an African player, he would have been banned for weeks, stuff like that. You don't want to get episodic about it, but you kind of sit there thinking, you're talking about one of the top teams in the world. You're talking about one of the top players in the world in terms of over 100 caps, been around the block and stuff like that. You've got to show that your commitment is the same across the board, So in many ways, I mean, you don't want to make an example out of him, but you've got to sit there and think what we decide with regards to him is going to be precedent. To be perfectly honest, if you give a bad sanction or a slightly lighter sanction to a lesser known or tier 2 nation, for example, people won't be bringing it up as much as you sort of the precedent as much as you would for an England player. I think my biggest frustration is, as you mentioned, is watching the incident, I sat there going, and for all the referees do get a lot of flack, and sometimes very rightfully, sometimes a little bit harsh, I watched the whole process and went, yeah, actually, that is actually it's been well handled. It's exactly what we want to see. We saw the TMO say, listen, there's been a tackle, let's have a look. Within 2 minutes, the referee said, I'm happy, that's foul play, I'm going to yellow card him. And the game then carried on whilst the TMO bunker did his thing. And then they came out and said, no, actually, it's going to be upgraded to a red card. He went down the tunnel. It didn't interfere in the game. And I thought they handled it really well. And then they came out and said, well, they were basically wrong. And I don't think they were wrong. So I think that's my frustration, is we finally saw a really good example of how the officiating should happen in the process. And then the decision kind of just sort of flew in the face of it.
But also their reasons. That Jamie George interfered. I mean, come on. Then we can make if they're setting the precedent, I mean, I mean, in the old days, this was for me almost like it was a bad tackle. It was almost a rugby incident. There's a penalty, maybe yellow, but just obviously where we're going, you can't base that mitigation on what you see. Everyone who said okay. Everyone who's gone back and watched it still can't see what this because even if it was this much, it's not. You need to be going down, a foot if you really want to mitigate it like that. And I don't know where rugby goes. They have to. I hope World Rugby.
But I think they have to say that, because I think if they don't get involved, then I think then we're in big trouble going into the World Cup. So I suppose, credit where credit due, it is good that World Rugby has stepped in and said, you had your process, but you guys have actually gotten it wrong, and we're gonna step in, and hopefully they then find it, reach sort of a more agreeable solution, as Chris does. You're back. Just popped in for a second, but I think what's been quite damning is the fact that a lot of the England fans are also going, yeah, we're also pretty surprised that he got away with it. I think a lot of England fans are going, shit, we also actually don't agree with that.
And it's also his Cyril.
Yeah, this would be his fourth ban. It would be his fourth ban for high tackle. He's had 3 different bans of 10 weeks in total being banned in this.
So even on that basis, just because it's almost happened again in a way, he needs to be bloody put on the naughty corner again, on the naughty bench again, because he just. Well, this is why I mean I know he is a good. Okay, sure, he's a good player, but this is we hear about him, his influence, but I think he's toxic. I don't think he's. Yeah, but that's just me. I'm not in the squad. But anyway, it is what it is. Hopefully, let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been named in the side, so that did come out about an hour ago, and he hasn't been named. And in theory, I think, well, I suppose it's one of those situations where you kind of, I think in theory, you can name him. So he said that, and this is actually a quote from Borthwick. He said, in light of the fact that so much of Owen's training and match preparation time this week has been significantly affected and interrupted by the disciplinary process, I have not selected him in the matchday 23. Owen will travel to Ireland with our full support. Owen understands the situation, but is of course disappointed, as am I, that he's missing out such a special game they would otherwise have played in. So I think it sounds like he basically probably wasn't lined to play, and I reckon after the fact that World Rugby came out and said they're going to get involved, then they probably decided not to select him, to be honest. It does mean that George Ford starts at 10, who I think is their best 10. So,
well, you know my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not. Let's keep that secret to ourselves, Stevie.
Yeah, no, as I say, I do think. I think when George Ford plays and he plays well, he's
absolutely.
Yeah.
When the last 7 years, whenever I've seen him play or start, England are he's a little bit smarter than Mr.
Yeah. Look, my unpopular opinion is I do think that if it's not George Ford, I would pick Farrell over Marcus Smith every day, because I think Marcus Smith's a great talent. I think he's not there yet.
Yeah, I was a Marcus Smith fanboy 100% a year ago, and I was Marcus Smith should play, but where England are and what they do, you can see he's frantic and uncomfortable, and it was always probably going to be that way. England they've never had a fly off like this. So what do they do with them? And then you still got Owen and Farrell around. So I agree. I don't think the 10-12 works with them. I would, going into this World Cup, I have changed my tune and said I would pick Farrell over Smith, but I would always pick Ford over Farrell every day of the week.
Yeah, and I think even that, I think Farrell at 12 works with Ford at times, but it just didn't work with Smith at all. I think the Ford Farrell axis can work out quite. I mean, it got them to a semi-final, so we know it. I mean, a final, so we know it does work. But I think the Smith Farrell axis just didn't really work.
And even when I have two examples, and I said, it's like, show me a clip of a match where Owen Farrell actually took a game by the horns and drove England over the line. Like, it was actually did something. I know might not be eye-catching, but I'm still waiting to see this amazingness of this guy who, like, I don't see it. I don't see him taking games by the horn and driving England forward. And then George Ford, who was under Borthwick with Leicester. I mean, he drove Leicester to that final. He got injured in that final. I just don't know what that poor guy has to do to be justified as their number 10. But it's also personal opinion, yeah, right? I mean,
100%. The one thing, I know this year he struggled, but the one thing I've always said with Owen Farrell is he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world when he's on song. That's always been quite a big thing. But I mean, this year I think during the Six Nations, at one stage he was operating at less than 50%. So maybe even that itself has actually gone. So, but interesting times for England and for Owen Farrell. So we have got no idea when the hearing will actually take place. That has not been confirmed. So it will not be before this weekend. So and this is for me the interesting thing. When I did the video this afternoon, people are now saying that they reckon that you're looking at a mid to high range sanction here, given the fact that you can't go to tackle school, so there's no mitigation with regards to moving the sanction down. So if you get the mid range sanction or high range sanction, and start looking at 6 weeks, that will only kick in next week. So he's actually going to miss a game this weekend that he would have served part of his ban. And if he gets 6 weeks, it means that not only would he miss the entire group stage in the World Cup, he'd also miss the quarterfinal. So I mean that base takes him out of the World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, because surely you can't go through the entire World Cup, get to semi-final, and then be like, right, Owen, off you go.
I mean, I don't look on the other side of the draw. I mean, England might be lucky to find themselves in a World Cup semi-final, but I don't know. Maybe it's a blessing if he just gets off. This is my opinion. I just think England will just do better without him. So I actually, I'm in two minds here. I'm in two minds. Whether he gets the ban he deserves, which he should, out of principle, but on a rugby basis, I would prefer him out of that England team because I think George Ford would fire with Artie Lawrence and and Marchant, you'll get that backline going, because that backline's got so much, and I don't understand. That team should never be performing the way they are, and it needs something to spark them. And I think George Ford can get them going. That's again, they're spinning guys, everyone out there. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's a decent size to pick this weekend. Our official preview will be out tomorrow. Courtney Laws is back to captain. I think that he is incredibly important.
Yeah, I love Courtney Law's unsung hero.
Yeah, I think he's one of, if not one of the probably the most important player for me going into the World Cup. I think if he plays well, he's one of those few players in the world. It doesn't matter what team he plays, he gets over the advantage line. He'll always front up, and he's so consistent.
Is he? He's not captain. He's the captain of England. I should know.
No,
yeah,
so,
well, yeah.
So Owen Farrell was captain for the World Cup, but this weekend it is Courtney Laws.
I believe if Courtney Laws is on his game, fired up, captain there at number 6, that England team could start getting on a little roll.
Yeah. And then George Ford is actually co-vice captain with Ellis Genge. So, but again, a very experienced English side this weekend. Ben Young is back to the starting lineup, with the most experienced English player anyway. But yeah, so we'll talk about more about England in my preview tomorrow and stuff. Let's move on to speaking of teams and stuff for the weekend. The Springboks are back, and it's a pretty strong side that we've named against Wales, and we're gonna have a look at it now. And we'll also have a look at the Wales side, which has had a late change. But Chris, when you had a look at this side, obviously the big news is KOLISI is back in the mix. A couple of other returns, the likes of Jaden Hendrickson and an Oxen Chair. Still with a 6-2 split, for example. Caden Moody being involved. What was your initial reaction looking at the squad?
Yeah, well, obviously KOLISI's name there, obviously. Well, he's going to be playing, and I'm holding my toes and fingers and thumbs, because I know it's a miracle, but we'll see. And I think expected. I mean, starting with probably our first choice front row. That's our premium front row, right? And I know you guys have been calling for Jaden Hendrickson. Could probably be the starting. Could have been, if he had a run at it, could be the starting scrum half. So good to see him back, and obviously Grant Williams back as well, which is nice. And in the back line, I mean, Varney's got to play all the way through now, with Willems playing that supporting role. So I think that's close. Yeah,
How do we get stronger? How do we get stronger? I think that's probably where we're getting at. Obviously, Etzebeth comes in at 4 for Jean Klein, but
what do you mean? How do we get stronger?
As a 23, if we play the World Cup final tomorrow, who comes in? How does this team change? Do you think?
Etzebeth.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's probably going to start, right? I think that's our back line. I think that's our first choice back line.
Do you? No, so that for me is obviously, I mean, because I actually did yesterday, the title of my show is, has Caden Moody made himself a starter?
I was getting there.
Yeah.
I was about to get to the point where I was going to say to Moody would be my starting.
Is it? So are you not fully convinced?
Yeah, I think Moody's an amazing player. I think he's a mercurial talent. I think he could be one of our greatest players ever by the end of his career if he stays.
Well, I mean, look, Jake White said he reckons he could be a test centurion, and I think that's how people.
No, I don't. Barring possibly a young Quirson, young Franz Steyn, I don't think we've ever seen a talent with maybe Colby's got, but there's a different type of. Moody's got something else going there.
But he just looked, for me, he just looks so comfortable at this level.
Yeah,
it looks like he's been playing. It looks like he's played 50 tests.
Correct. Yeah, he's I feel like he's the closest that we've got to, like maybe Cullen was and what Will Jordan is. I'm not saying he's at that level, but like for us to have a player of that caliber and that skill, I think he gets quite close to that.
Now, and we'll talk a little bit about it positionally, but I mean, do we think that wing is probably our most stock position at the moment? When you think that Caden Moody's almost making himself a starter here. We're not talking about Makazole Mapimpi, who's got an unreal try scoring record, and we're not even talking about Curtly Orense, who's at the moment scored more than a try per match.
Well, the thing is, we've had Jesse Creel going at 13 with Arm for the last couple of years, right? So Arm's out, and you feel you're so obliged and obligated to slot Creel at 13. I think Moody at 13 could even be a sensation.
So that's what the comments are asking. Let's talk about that. I'd be interested to see what will happen when he goes back to the Bulls, because I think that the Bulls will play him at 13, because if you look at that Bulls squad, they've added Henry Immelman, who's a 15. They've added Willie LaRue, who's a 15. They've brought in Jakob van der Walt. They brought in another fly half. So they've got Chris Smith, Jakob van der Walt, and Jan Goosen. They often play Goosen at 15 to be able to make space for Chris Smith and now probably Jakob van der Walt. And so if Goosen's at 15, you've also got, Hendel Emmelman as well as Willie Leroux at options at 15. Kirkley Arendses can play at 15. You've got Sravino Yarkis, for example, on the option on the wing. So, but for me, if you look at their centres, not as stacked. So I think we're going to see Kane Moody at outside centre for the Bulls. Do you think that's where he'll settle?
I think he would. I think he's a smart player. Yeah, I think he's got all the skills, all the makeup to be a great 13. Yeah, I think if he has a solid inside centre, then yeah, I'm hoping that he settles at 13. I think he'll do great. But you could put him anywhere at the back three, and he's gonna make an impact on the game, right?
Yeah, I just hope that we kind of don't do almost that France Day thing where we sort of moved him around so much that at one stage didn't quite know where he was playing. Which some people were worrying about Damien Willems, which I think is a valid concern, but I think Willems has shown that he's so talented that his versatility is his biggest talent almost.
But for Moody, it's like also we need to provincial, but every time he plays, he stands out. He's one of those players that are standing out. He's doing something good, productive. He looks like completely the part. He looks ready to go. He looks like he's taking a duck towards international rugby. So why would you leave him out? I do. I also get Kirkley Lawrence is a game breaker as well. I'm going to admit. I mean, I love him at pumps. I do, but I think Lawrence has to be in the 23 as well somehow.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Because now, for example, you just don't leave out Cheslin Colby. We're talking about one of the best players in the world.
If Moody wasn't a factor, because Moody kind of wasn't, he's been there, he blooded him in. But now it's almost like we can't leave those three out.
And all of a sudden, we're almost like moving Cheslin Colby to see if he can play at 11 to make space for Moody.
And the way we play with Willie, we can't leave Willie out of this structure and coaching structure. So we can't really shift him either. So, but look, good problem to have. Look, either way, whoever goes, I'll be happy. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh no, So, and if someone breaks down, we've got a really good backup.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the nice thing is that whilst there are some big question marks over like 13, where we've only got Jesse Krill, who's an out and out 13, and fly half where everybody's saying, well, if Marty goes down, all of a sudden you've got Damien. I think outside back is one position where we're not worried. I mean, we could get two genuine injuries and we could still be starting a Kirkley Arendse and a Kane Moody, or a Mapimpi, Kirkley Arendse, Willie Leroux, or a Kirkley Arendse, Kane Moody, Damien Willems, and you sit there going, yeah, I'd actually be quite comfortable with any of the sort of the 5-6 outside backs we've got. I would be pretty comfortable with any of them starting. But let's talk a little bit about Marty Liebach, because as much as everybody keeps continuing with this whole agenda that Andre Pollard is going to come back and play Scotland and win us the World Cup, the Boks keep saying that he's not part of the plan. That is not the plan, and we've got to back Marty Liebach. I mean, how much pressure do you think he's going to be on in the next couple of games, or do you think all of a sudden there's almost a certain amount of I'm actually not playing necessarily for my place here. I'm actually now this is me playing for the World Cup. I now know I actually will probably be playing. I need to actually now settle in. And do you think that sort of alleviates a bit of the pressure and allows him to maybe sort of play his more natural game, or do you think it adds more pressure on the fact that it's like, well, hell, all of a sudden I'm the number one choice. If I play badly, the entire team's got a problem.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we've basically taken out how we've played Springboks. We talk about how they've played to win World Cups, which is that solid Pollard-like number 10 controlled game, almost 10-man rugby. We're taking that out the equation. You can see when the Boks play with Liebach on or Pollard on, it's a different game. And obviously part of me has been feeling, well, we're going in with the same medicine. We know the medicine. We know the drill. We're going in with the same plan of attack. And that was very much a Faf Pollard access, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, even Faf could not even be there. So it's a different book team, and a book team that I actually enjoy watching. I enjoy watching them play, and they're going to have to go to the World Cup and play. So I'm at loss. I'm not sure how this book team actually goes now, because also we haven't seen a consistent book side for the last 5-6 tests as well. So it's going to be very interesting. And with regards to Marnie, well, no one gave him a hope in hell 3 years ago when he came to the Stormers, and he led the Stormers to a win and 2 finals, and he looked pretty good in big games. Yes, he does miss the odd kick, don't get me wrong, but the way he plays, he could put Willemson Arendse away for a try in the last 10 minutes and make up those points in that way. It looks like that's how we're going to have to accumulate our points. It's going to have to be with more going for attacking rugby. So I think I'm okay with Lebok. I think he might embrace it. I think he did with the Stormers. I think he'll take it by the horns. I just, again, if he goes down, I'm not so convinced about Williams at 10 to go through the World Cup. But it's 3 games. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I'm really, really curious to see how the Boks play, because are we gonna play to the Boks' strength or the way he plays and has played, or are we gonna coach him into a Pollard style? And it probably might backfire.
Yeah, and for me, I think that the interesting thing is everybody talks about Faf de Klerk as this, very boring box kicking scrum half. But if you're a Lions fan, you'll know that is not how when he arrived in the scene and when he was playing at the Lions, it's not how he naturally played his game. It's something that was very much sort of coached into him when he was at sort of the box because of the box system and stuff like that. So what'll be interesting, the fact that we've now included Grant Williams, for example, who has that sort of that edge and stuff. It'll be interesting to see how even a Jaden Hendricks as well, how him and Faf de Klerk now play, whether they're going to play quite similarly, whether they're sort of going to take on a bigger role in terms of kicking off 10, kicking off 9, playing off 9, or whether they'll also get a little bit more license to say, no, by all means, let's pick up the ruck speed, let's get the ball going, get clean ball to Monty and let him cook, basically, as people would say. So, and on that Jaden Hendricks thing, we haven't seen him in a while. As I said, last year, a lot of things were pointing to him all of a sudden, climbing up the ranks. He starts against the All Blacks. Do you think that he's genuinely going to be in the mix coming the World Cup, or do you think that they've taken him as an option, but maybe without the game time might not necessarily be making it that high? Removing the Kobus Reinach agenda here as well.
I just still think the way these guys, coaches have gone through the years, and the guys like Reinach and Kriel have popped up in almost all these squads they can. I still think Reinach is pretty much the second choice scrum half, in my opinion. It will be between Williams and Hendricks, who backs him up should that be the case if Faf went down. And
what's interesting though is that Reinach has never come off the bench. It's like if Faf play, he'll start, for example, and if he's not starting, then often Reinach starts, and then somebody else comes off the bench.
So that's why I think they wanted to see, haven't seen so much more of these two guys before this point in time. So I don't know if it's going to be Faf. Faf is going to certainly be a starter, and then it's going to just be a matter of who's going to back him up between him and Hendricks. They might go for Williams for the more versatility of Williams. But Hendricks, I just wish Hendricks had more game time. Yeah. Maybe he gets it this week and next week, or let's see what they do with him.
And then the big sort of question mark is, I wouldn't say question mark. KOLISI obviously hasn't played since I think about February when he got that injury. When he first got injured, people were doubting his World Cup, and you could see how hard he worked to get back. He has been basically in full training for it looks like about 2 or 3 weeks. He even took part in the warm up at Ellis Park about 3 weeks ago now, actually it was, and was running around and running the drills and stuff like that. He comes into the side. He is a player who, in the past, has needed game time to get going. He's not necessarily a player that's always managed to slot back in and be at his best. But in the last 2 to 3 years, probably safe to say he's been playing the best rugby we've ever seen him play. I suppose he's a player, and take away his leadership. I think we all know that we have to have him for his leadership. We all know that the Boxer player are a better team when he's in it from a leadership point of view, and he really does help them get him up. But just from a playing perspective, he's somebody who I think could have been in the World Player of the Year charts in the last couple of years, and won Bok Player of the Year, I think 2021, and was second to Etzebeth last year. From a playing perspective, though, how important is it that we get him right and he gets right before the World Cup?
Yeah, I don't know how. Obviously important, because he means that much to our team and is of value. No matter what, he needs to be around. I must admit, I've been trying this whole week to understand exactly how they got his knee to where it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've read it or because I don't. I'm thinking of other guys who are rushed in with knee injuries. They never come back nearly as strong.
I think the biggest thing there's a little bit of confusion exactly what actually happened. It would be really nice to have had a bit of an update on exactly what he actually had done in the end.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm very worried. I don't know if he makes it through the first half. It's just a gut feeling. I am worried he's going to break down again. I'm gonna be very honest.
Yeah.
I'm really worried about
No,
it.
I think that's the worry. It's he's coming back. I don't think anyone coming back from a knee injury, for example, if you're coming back from a shoulder injury or you're coming back from something like that, you kind of sitting there going, it's a bit not easier, but you kind of sit there saying, those are often like Oxen Chair, for example, it was a pectoral injury because he tore it in the gym. He didn't warm up properly. He said he was rushing, so that's like a bit of a freak injury. It's not something that wasn't like a rugby collision, but a knee is such a volatile thing.
Yeah, the thing is, in the form he was on, just if he comes straight back into that form, amazing, brilliant. The word miracle has been used, right?
Yeah.
For me, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah, well, we know it. We're a land of miracles, so let's hopefully have another one. But yeah, I think he's probably the one that everyone's going to watch out the most for. I said, I think it's all going to be sitting there saying, is he fit? Is he ready? And I think also the coaching staff need to be, and they will. I think if he's completely gassed after 40 minutes or even 35 minutes, take him off.
But this training, has he been doing full contact? Do we know, has he been doing full contact?
Yeah, I think he's been training I think since the New Zealand game, I think he's basically been in full training. So with full contact and the works and stuff. So hopefully, in theory, he's had 3 or 4 weeks.
I think the boys have been attacking his knees. Have we let him go lightly?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, because you don't want you.
It was my. If I was a player, I don't know if I would be charging.
No, I was about to say you don't be that guy that goes like, oh well, unfortunately, KOLISI has done his knee again because Jean Clay decided to dive bomb into his knee, and it was like, well, thanks, Jean. Back to Ireland you go, dude.
Yeah, that's the worry.
So I suppose
Let's see.
Look, the nice thing we know that as a player, he's not gonna, he will go full tilt this weekend. So if we in terms of getting any information on his knee, we'll know pretty quickly where it's at.
I don't know, is it the knee? I know it's certainly the ankle, but when some of these things go and then you rush it in, that breaks something else, the offset another part of the body. So the other worry is actually him injuring himself somewhere else.
I think with knees, a lot of the time, the often is worried is the other knee. Is that
that's what I'm saying.
You're so worried about this knee that you can't sometimes do the other knee. That's often happened to some people. But no, touch wood, he's going to get through the game fine. And we're going to be talking about Captain Fantastic being back. Now, before we go to the betting segment and talk a little bit about the other game, we'll talk a little bit about the Welsh side, which has changed, if you have not seen. And I'm a bit frustrated about the change because I quite like the 2 players who are playing. So that is the team for this weekend. The late changes are Kai Evans come into the starting lineup on debut at 15, and Sam Costello has come in at 10 because Liam Williams and Dan Bigger have both been ruled out with, precautionary been taken out of the team with injuries. So if we look at the side, Chris, very inexperienced props from an international perspective. I think both have 2 caps to their name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, not the most experienced team. I mean, you've got the likes of Alex Cuthbert coming back, who's going to be a handful for Ches and Colby. So I look at this team and think scrum wise, we should be decimated. There should be no excuse. They're both good props, but you're now playing against the Bok front row. They're our best front row. That should be an avenue we should target. The thing that probably scares me the most looking at this team is that loose trio.
Yeah, that looks. Yeah, if you look at this team and you watch Welsh rugby, that's a very decent loose trio, for sure. Like I said, the rest of the team feels a bit light, but absolutely that's where it's strong for them there.
And I think what's going to be interesting is that, and it'll be interesting now, given the fact that Dan Bigger's not playing and Liam Williams is not playing, is if you look at the height of this backline, it's a tall backline. You look at Johnny Williams, and he's a tall player. Mason Gray is a tall player. Rio Dyer is the shortest person in the backline. He stands about 186. Alex Cuthbert's a big wing. So we have no doubt that high ball and that up and under is going to definitely be a big factor this weekend.
Yeah, I must say, I mean, I actually enjoy the Welsh national side. I do like Afghan, but I don't do Welsh rugby a bit of service, or do them a bit of a disservice because I don't watch a lot of Ospreys and Cardiff games. So these names, I know these names, but I don't watch a lot of them provincially. So, but interesting to see how they go.
I think the big thing is I think a lot of casual fans as well. Not calling you a casual fan, but a lot of people that.
Well, I'm a casual Welsh provincial.
Yeah,
fan,
but I think also, I mean, you've got Warren Gatton who's still really trying to find information on his players. I mean, you look at the side, for example, and if you don't watch domestic rugby, I'm trying to bring out the press release here. I mean, Johnny Williams. I mean, your centre pairing have got 8 caps between them. Mason Grady is his 4th game. Johnny Williams is his 6th game. Rio Dyer has played less than 10 games. Sam Costello has played 3 caps. You know, there's only one person in the backline who's played more than 20 caps, and that's Alice Cuthbert. And Kieran Hardy's the only other player in the backline who's played more than 10 caps. So it's a very young, very experienced backline. Well, it's a very experienced team, actually.
Yeah, I mean the Welsh team, like up until recently, they were doing really well. And it's not the names that are in this team. Like, and it'll be interesting to see how they go in the Welsh jersey. But like, they're often up their game for us, and even in Wales, like even if it's a team that's we don't recognize these guys as a Welsh formation, I still think they're going to give us one hell of a game.
They're always a bit of a bogey team for us, not in terms of they beat us particularly often, but they're never an easy side for us to beat. They always seem to have a number and make competitive.
Yeah. But then there are times when I look at games like now, and you look at the matchups, you're thinking to yourself, this has to be a comfortable book win. But I'm not going to stick my neck out and say that.
Yeah.
Because it's never we hardly ever throw. We haven't had a big win again. Barring it was 16 points in Newlands in the last game. I mean that's probably been one of the biggest wins we've had over them for a very long time. Even though we do have the rub of the green, but it's always within a score or within 7 points. So
and
I don't see any difference.
It's a whole different kettle of fish when you're playing over there in the Millennium.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, these barring the French and the Scots giving us some decent games. I don't look into these friendlies. They are definitely down 7% in intensity, and what the coaches definitely go and ask the players to do something a little bit different. You can see that it's not the same type of test matches, and players are protecting themselves for sure. And especially some guys are going down. They will. So it's going to be interesting. Watch it, of course.
Yeah, no, 100%. And as you everyone know, we will be obviously live for the watch long, so you can come and join us over there. So before we talk a little bit about the games this weekend, because there are a couple of other nice games, let's talk about this. So this is your betting segment brought to you by Boyle Sports. And if you are trying to get into your betting, first of all, you're going to get yourself a Boyle Sports account. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. And then what we suggest doing is going on X, the X Twitter, now known as X, and following Chris at the Crow Tips. And then Chris, the season record's looking pretty good. And how are we going to better that this weekend?
Yeah, looking very healthy. We had a nice week too. I think it was 2 weeks ago because we missed last week, but we have a 100% record. We had the double coming in. Tasman won and Oz plus 24 cruised home. As we short said on the show, I thought Oz were going to give them a close game, and they did. Didn't win it, but probably as expected. And I had the lean of Oz over 9.5 points at half time, Oz points, and they smashed that in 12 minutes. So that was one I was actually thinking of adding as a proper bet. I should have, because I was deep down pretty confident about it, so I should have actually punted it as an official. But anyway, if you did put it towards your bets that you created, then great. Yeah, so the season record, we're 13-9 and a very nice 15.9 units up and a very, very healthy 62% return on investment. As I said, Stevie, I'm really, really happy with that. If we were still floating around 20-25%, that's still pretty decent if you look at people that charge tips around the world. So that's where they would be. So we're doing pretty well, yeah. So we're going to continue it. We've got some units up, so we'll use some this weekend. I'm taking a little bit of a different approach this weekend, Stevie, because points. I like points. As you noticed, I've bet a lot on points, and the points markets haven't been out for these games, which is fine. I do like NPC. I will be betting some NPC games in the future, but for now we've got the Pro. So the Pro D2 starts tonight. It's the French second division, which is a lovely betting competition. Everyone knows. I think it's a little secret gem. Not secret gem, but I think a lot of punters. We don't punt it publicly, but I think we all know that it's quite a nice tournament to punt on, because obviously bookies aren't as familiar with it, and there's quite solid form lines that come out of that competition. So it starts tonight. So I'm going to start tonight. It's Biarritz vs Colomiers, and I'm going for second half highest scoring. I love the half scoring market. Yeah. I know a lot of guys don't, but I'm going to target it this weekend because. Why I say this, because generally Pro D games, the first halves are very tight and low scoring. So I'm not going to buck a trend of the last 2 years, which I like. So I think they're going to go in, have a very, very tight first half. And there'll be a try or two more in the second half, probably. So we'll go for the second half highest score in that game tonight, 1.5 units. And we'll do the same for the Wales-South African game. Now, I actually maybe wanted to have changed this because it looks like our pack should monster the Welsh pack, and that could happen in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going on the trend of Wales-South African games. They often are tighter games, and if in the last 4 out of the last 6 games, the second halves it's normally tight. First halves, more points in the second. That's just how our games of them go. As you said, it just seems quite a familiar pattern with South Africa versus Wales. So I'm going to say it. If anyone listens to this, we're going to stay with the 1.5 units. I might have dropped it because I am a little bit worried that we do monster a few rolling moors in the first half. But we'll keep 1.5 units. We'll keep this trend, and I'm still confident that it will still maybe open up in the second half. So we'll go another 1.5 units to 199 there. So take a little bit of a different approach just with what's available with the games today. So yeah, if they both come in, we'll have another very, very healthy week, or at least we won't lose. We'll be in the same position next week.
Right, so 3 units up on this weekend, eh? So
yeah, so that's it. We got two plus 2.65 last week, and we're going to go up another 3 this weekend. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So
Let's
then
keep
if
rolling.
everyone's new to that, so your unit is obviously whatever you decide to generally bet. So for example, mine is 10 rand. Times are tough out here, and still once that return of investment sits there for another month or two, Chris, you might even convince me to start upping the units. But yeah, so if you are new, that is the concept of the units. So
well, we have I suppose we have news for people. We'll grow this in other ways from the next couple of weeks. This is tonight's show, the rugby show, but we'll get more risky maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
Future.
So on that note, please do keep an eye out on the channel for a cool announcement that will involve Chris and seeing a lot more of his friendly face. And so keep an eye out for that announcement, which will hopefully be very, very soon. But yeah, so that's all on Boyle Sports, by the way. If you're wondering where those markets are from, as I said, Boyle Sports are our official betting partners, so those are where the odds are. And if you have any questions, stuff like that, put them in the comments, and we will endeavor to try and answer them, or else we'll bring them up next week in the fan forum. And right. So, Chris, we've got 50 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about the other games this weekend. We have got England versus Ireland and France versus Fiji. And I want to sort of obviously focus on England versus Ireland because probably the better of the games. And I think very interesting because Ireland are coming back from about a 2-week, break. They've gone pretty strong as well, pretty much full strength. England also very strong, but England playing. Let's find a way nice way to say it. I'm not quite firing all cylinders just yet. Surely this is a pretty one-way traffic game. It's in Ireland. It's at the Aviva, number 1 team in the world versus an underperforming England side. What chance do England have?
Not a lot, but like I said, and I'm being honest. This is these friendlies. I'm looking at completely different to like the finale, the Grand Slam finale game, But like I said, my mind still boggles, and even under Andy Jones, like England have to be much better than they are, surely. Interesting comments that you said. I do read. I like to read and make my opinion on what people say during the week, and I think you said Borthwick said a big game in Ireland, and Farrell's missing a massive game.
Massive occasion, yes.
So friendly against Ireland is a massive occasion. Okay. It probably is because it is England versus Ireland. So that tells me that I think they got some Six Nations revenge on their mind to England. So I think it's going to be...
Maybe they're at the situation like, listen, guys, we're not going to win a World Cup. But if we can beat Ireland in the Aviva before, then at least that's something, boys.
Well, I'm gonna say that there is that factor. I think I know rugby players. I think England will want to avenge that game. I do think players do have that mentality, and I'm going to say that England are going to be better without Farrell, and I think they're going to give Ireland a good game.
Well,
I think Ireland are going to win. Ireland are going to win, but it's going to be a tight game. It's not going to be an Ireland runaway.
I lied. He didn't say big. He said such a special game that he would.
Special. Okay.
Special game. Yeah, I'm not sure what's
That's it.
special about it because it's not like anyone's reaching like a big milestone. I mean, Owen Farrell has hit 100 tests a while ago and has played 100 tests for England a while ago. So it's not like he.
But I mean, England Wales games are special in a way as well, and I've been completely disappointed and flattered to see in those. So what am I going to get? I'm going to get excited for England Ireland, and I'm going to see another like 19-8 Ireland win.
I mean, I suppose.
can't
I mean,
wait.
for example, next week, Box versus New Zealand at Twickenham, and you will be there. So I
Yes,
suppose
sir.
you tell me. But I wouldn't call it a special game. I mean, it's a cool game. It's the biggest rivalry in rugby, but a World Cup warm-up game in
No,
in a neutral ground.
No, it's going to be a nice occasion, but it's not going to be. I ain't licking my lips like when I used to go watch the All Blacks play Springboks at Newlands in a Tri Nations game.
And it's not quite like the third. Your second. The big like Ellis Park, for example, like a New Zealand Bok game at Ellis Park or in Eden Park, like those are the games. Test matches don't get bigger than those type of games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a nice. I think it's almost sold out, so it's going to be a very nice crowd. I think
it'll be. I think it's going to be a great day.
I think it's going to be a great. It's going to be a great occasion. I think it's going to be a good match. It's not. We're not going to. Mind you, come on, when the Springboks played all, but I don't think anyone leaves anything behind. So maybe we misinterpreted this. Maybe these guys are not going to help themselves and see the old enemy in front of them and go, "Bugger this! I'm going for it. I'm not losing to these oaks."
Yeah, no, but I'll be interested to see the type of teams that get put out. I think
some
people suggested that Ian Foster is set to potentially rotate. I think other people are saying that they reckon the Panny Rassi has been sort of implying that they're going to try and use that All Black game to kind of announce that that we're candidates and go and beat them and say going into the World Cup saying actually we're here to play. So I'll be interested to see the type of teams and the attitude that they've got. I mean, obviously they're not going to be sitting there telling the players, oh, it's actually not a big occasion, but it is 2 weeks before the World Cup, so there is that certain amount of go out and get a big result that you also can't afford to get into because then you're done.
I don't know who decided to have this as a final warm-up fixture. It's I'm not saying it's a sacred fixture, but it just doesn't feel right, does it? It doesn't.
It kind of
doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it does it any justice. But
sorry, Chris, are you trying to imply? I just want to get this right. Are you trying to imply that the Qatar, what's it called? The Qatar Invitational Cup could be slightly commercialized and not that not that serious.
Okay, now that's exactly why they found these two teams. Okay, well that makes perfect sense. All aboard the gravy train. Let's go.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, go enjoy your. Hopefully, it's free. Hopefully, you can enjoy it. Hopefully, you're up there having the nice food and getting involved.
Got my tripod.
Oh, there we go. I see. Soon to be there. We go. Soon to be award-winning journalist Chris off to watch the Qatar Cup at Twickenham.
Can't wait. I know. I can't wait to go. I can't wait to being in the experience that you guys think you're going to give me the opportunity to be in. So I can't wait for next Friday. Really can't.
Yeah. So and if you're watching, set your bloody alarms because it's next week Friday. It's 8:30 next week Friday. So don't sit there. Don't go out on the jaw and then all of a sudden you're on the TV like, oh, is that last week's game? And be like, no, you're busy missing the Bok test. So it is on a Friday night, which is a bit of a strange one. I don't think I've ever watched Bok Rugby on a Friday night.
Weekend. When last did we play? I think we played Georgia maybe on a Friday night.
Yes, that's actually a very good shot. It was the Friday night before there was a British and Irish Lions game on the Saturday.
Yeah, that's the last only time I can remember that we played on South Africa played on a Friday. Hey.
Yeah, and then Georgia all got COVID and got sent home.
Oh, jeez.
Good times. Little throwback there. And then the last game, France versus Fiji. France are intermac-less for the World Cup. They're still bye-less for the next 5 to 6 weeks potentially. If I were to pick like 5 players who I thought you don't want to get injured, those 2 would be within my 5.
Correct. I was having a WhatsApp chat with my mates on Friday, and I said I named Tomac. I think I made the point to Tomac, the point of Leon. Sorry, the flank. I didn't say Bile, but I said. What if one of these 3 were going to go down? One of them, they're going to. It's never like I just had this feeling, and I hope I didn't curse him, but
No internet for the World Cup. I mean, just how big is that for France?
And huge. I love it. So as you know, I've been punting France to win this World Cup for 2.5 years, 3 years, and Intermac was a big part of that.
Yeah.
I am now concerned because of that DuPont Intermac dynamic. They can break.
And
I was saying,
for me, the Intermac comes
break up a
Ramos
team.
Nack as well. Those three.
Yes, yeah. Intermac can do stuff. Like I said, like if it gets tense in a Rugby World Cup, because they will get tense, surely, France at some point. And if it is 12-9 with 15 minutes to go, it's in an Intermac ridiculous no-look pass inside his 22 or dummy that breaks away, that puts Ramos or someone under the posts. You know, they go up 15-12 and they close it out, you know. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting now. It's open. It was an open World Cup. It's just got even more open.
Yeah, and interesting how and again, you know, all of a sudden if we get to see Owen Farrell, for example, and this is where the warm games gets so interesting. And where do you sort of sit with the whole warm game? Because some people are saying, oh, it's ludicrous that we're playing these warm games. They're just waiting for injuries. But I mean, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because you have to play rugby going into the World Cup.
No, what do I think? I think they have to be played.
Yeah.
And they have to be played. It's weird that it has to be in internationals. It's almost like could you put a club side there, a top club side, and they play them instead? But what does it matter, right? They're still going out there, putting their bodies out there. You can't not be playing rugby 6 weeks out, right? You gotta be playing.
Yeah, and so they will have a 2-week break. And so, for example, the Boks are going to go over to Corsica for a little training camp and do a bit of sweating.
Sounds lovely.
But I mean, France versus Fiji. Fiji are a bit of a everybody's very excited about the island teams this year. You know, your Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, because of the whole eligibility rules and a lot of other players coming in here. Fiji for me are always a team that have always threatened to be good. And I mean, look, they're currently actually ranked higher than Wales. So they're currently ranked 9th in the world. Wales actually ranked 10th. Do you think this is the year we're going to see a Fiji pitch up and really start to sit at the table maybe?
No, I'll be honest. We might see another little bit improvement from these island teams, but we're going to see them maybe fade at 70 minutes instead of 60 minutes. I just don't believe they have the backbone and the fitness levels and the discipline to go through an 80-minute hard international match. We got the players, but it's still, for me, the mentality. I know it's harsh. They might compete a little bit longer this time around, but I don't see them causing upsets.
And long term, I mean, I said the eligibility rules have almost created like a bit of an immediate fix. Obviously, long term, they could still sort of use it to advantage. But also things like the Drua and having a domestic side, which has got a lot of international players playing together. We saw how the Jaguares really sort of helped boost the Argentina for a bit. So do you think long term now, maybe this is probably too soon, but long term, do you think this is going to be the reckoning for some of these nations?
Yes, I hope. Yes, like I said, improvements. I'm looking for improvement. I think we should see improvement. Yes, that's that law to get the players back. I think being the Super Rugby is certainly going to get them on the upward trend. I think I don't know. Maybe we have to get a Six Nations Southern Hemisphere Six Nations. Get them playing Rugby Championship. Get Samoa and Fiji get them playing us. Get us playing hard test matches every year. Because I don't think I just don't think they play that high end level rugby enough to go to World Cup and go through.
Yeah, and the biggest problem is that whole new World Rugby schedule is literally taking them away from the option, you know. And again, as you said, you can't play against other tier 2 nations and then come up against France and Ireland, the Springboks and All Blacks and expect to ever compete.
But then again, we've let Italy do this for 21 years, and where are they? So
watch my juniors. Those Italy under 20 have beaten England like 3 times the last 2 years.
I have to admit, people have said watch out for the youngsters, and I ignored it because I would see too much Zebra and Benetton in my life, and Italy not winning international. But yes, there were eye-catching performances from us that year.
I also think what's going to happen what's going to be really good for them is the fact they've got so many more players now playing overseas. You know, the fact that Paulo Gabizzi is playing, you know, in France, and it's not like he's there to bench and anything. You know, he's there to actually play. So I think that I think for me will be the big thing for, you know, I mean Benetton have been getting more competitive. Zebra is still a bit of a joke, and then you sort that out. But I think the more that if you've got somebody like Lorenzo Canoni, who I think is going to be proper, if he's playing in a top 14 or in a premiership and stuff like that, I think that'll go a long way to them actually becoming genuinely competitive.
Steve, I do say tongue in cheek, and obviously I do mean what I say about it, because I would love stronger international teams. I would love it. I would love to at least 12 teams that, on any day you think, okay, they've got a chance, So I want Italy to be strong. I want Fiji to be strong. I want them to be, but at the moment we've got a pool of 8, we only can pull together 6, maybe, 3 meaningful hardcore tests a weekend.
Yeah.
That are gonna. But anyway, I mean, it's been like that from the beginning. But it'll be nice.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we could actually be talking complete rubbish, and we could see Georgia beating some teams in the World Cup. We'll know in 3 weeks' time, won't we? They do come. The pool games I love the pool games of the World Cup, because they bring it. Those underdogs, the lower teams bring it, and they do give the top tiers a bloody good game. And there's always kind of moments, aren't there? Ingwenya rounding a banner. That's spoken about today. It doesn't matter that they crashed out, but there's always those sort of iconic tier 2 nation moments where it's like that big hit, that try, that when Chile score their first Rugby World Cup try ever, that'll be those really cool moments as well.
Well, actually, talk about what's the bigger ones that you can remember? I think Tonga beat France in 2011, right? That was a biggie. Maybe Argentina beating France in the opener.
And
Argentina, can't say Argentina was an underdog, but it was a big result.
And was it Scotland that knocked out England? Well, they knocked out someone when I think it was who was the Scotland? I think Greg Laidlaw. I'm sure it was Scotland
in 2015.
I think it was 2015. Yeah. Well, obviously the Japan beating us, and we're going to go there.
Yeah, Japan. Okay, that was out of my brain. Thanks for reminding me that. Scott, there was that controversial. There was that controversial Craig Jabir game against Australia, was it? But was that the quarterfinal or the semi? Who did Australia beat? Because we lost to New Zealand. Who did Australia beat in the semi? I can't remember. Wales? No, we knocked out Wales.
In 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knocked out Wales and then lost to New Zealand.
Yes.
Australia were in the finals, and I think I want to say they beat England. No. Or did they beat Argentina?
It probably was Argentina.
You know what? I've got the beauty of the internet, so we can speculate, or we can actually find out.
Because you remember that game, that Australia-Scotland game, where Greg Japan never refed another game in his life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, as I said, I just need to back yourself. It was Argentina who beat Ireland in Cardiff, hammered them 43-20 to get to the semi-final, and then lost to Australia, and then Australia, because we beat Argentina in the third and fourth playoff.
Well, that's another scar to send Irish way, hey? Jeez.
Imagine being pumped by Argentina, like basically at home. I mean, it's Cardiff, but
that Irish record of those, just every quarterfinal, every single World Cup, is an amazing record. Why do we want to give it up, eh?
No, the problem is that we all laugh, but we all know that it's going to come. That they will win the World Cup eventually, and then we're in big trouble. Because the problem is maybe it's one of those things where once the monkey's off the back, they're going to go and win a couple.
Yeah, well, yeah, but exactly. I mean, them in France have been nations on the rise, and arguably New Zealand a little bit lower, but still really good. Us kind of feels like we've just been there, and Australia on a decline. So that's going to be so interesting. That quarterfinal, whoever on that side of the draw, those two quarterfinals are going to be redonk.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. But people, that's been as much time as we've got for tonight. Time flies when you're talking shit. So Chris, thank you very much for jumping on. We will be checking back in a week's time to see how those players went. I've locked them in while you're chatting them. I actually was on the Boyle Sports, and I was getting my bets in for the weekend. Got started getting myself some spending money for France, so I can go buy all the jerseys. I'm trying to decide which jersey to buy. I want to buy one or two of the different ones. I like the Italian jersey. I think the Chilean jersey is pretty cool, and I want to buy a Romania jersey might be quite cool, but it's also yellow. And when am I going to wear yellow? So I'm going to try.
I also actually need to do some jersey investing, so I'll do it.
Maybe we should actually on across the team just also start looking for different ones. It'd be boring if all four of us go and get the same jersey. So maybe you start.
Let's go. Let's do that.
Right, there we go. People, if you have jumped in and you've been part of it, please do smash like on the video. Please do smash like. Please subscribe to the channel as well. We are past 36,000 subscribers, so this weekend we're going to try and move on to 37, maybe even 38, if we can get a nice watch long in. We want to try and get to 40,000 before the World Cup. That is the plan, people. So if you haven't already, don't be an enemy of progress and go and do that. Go and sign up for Boyle Sports, who have been bringing you the show. Link in the chat, link in the description. And you can go follow Chris on X. That's horrendously deteriorating platform, which was once great, and now
I'll make a few posts now. It's not a tweet, it's a post.
It's a post. Oh yeah, because that's a repost, not a retweet. Yeah, I mean, I thought that Wales and England have fallen from grace quickly, but that's been a whole different thing over there. Anyway, we're not going to talk about the X Twitter RIP. But yeah, people, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, if you are just tuning in now, this will be available as a podcast across all your favorite audio platforms. So you can go and stream it on the way to work tomorrow. And apart from that, we will see you guys tomorrow, as well as over the weekend for some live streams. You're going to be seeing myself, you're going to be seeing Mark, you're going to be seeing Wes, all on the various watch-alongs over the weekend. So it should be a lot of fun. And the countdown is officially on. Tomorrow marks 3 weeks and counting. 21 days until the World Cup does start, so time to start getting excited. People, keep well, keep safe. Chris, thank you very much. And everybody, we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.